All right. Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Siddharth Verma, and I'm a former junior India ranked player. I still play tournaments, and I want to share my experience with you all today. I've been playing tennis from the age of 4 or 5, so it's been almost 35 years of tennis now. So whatever experiences I've gathered and knowledge I have, I will try to share with you in the most simplified form, so that it becomes easier for you to understand. Well, I want to really thank Pro Touch for giving me this platform so I can share my experience and my knowledge with all of you guys, which I hope that it will benefit you. And if you have any questions, please throw in whenever possible. Um, uh, I belong to a tennis family. I've learned tennis from my father. My father was very passionate about tennis, and he played tennis in Bengal, and also he was teaching tennis. So I've learned a lot from him, and also from my sister, who's also into tennis, and she's one of the top coaches in DKS, which is in Calcutta. Uh, so I've these two people have in my family have helped me to learn a lot of tennis. So basically, I would say my father often told me that that tennis is a great sport. It's like medicine. So if you are playing tennis, uh, mm, you don't have to go to the doctor. So there are a lot of advantages of playing tennis. You can play tennis throughout your life till a very old age, um, and and, um, and it's a lot of fun, and it keeps you very fit, and you can also enjoy. And playing tennis, you meet a lot of great people. I mean, amazing. I've met a lot of great people. I've learned a lot through tennis. I mean, the benefits of tennis are amazing. And even if you can't become a great player, but it gives you great opportunity to go abroad and get scholarships, which is very good for you. It's not easy to get scholarships. I mean, even if you get scholarship, the amount of money is quite high, but still, if you get 70-80% scholarship, it's great. So that's one of the good things. And if you are playing tennis, even yeah, if you're doing business or something like that, uh, it's it helps you to do business deals or something like that. So it has benefits in a lot of ways. Even if you're putting your kids into tennis, a lot of times parents are very worried that they're not doing that great. But one way of seeing it is that they're away from a lot of distractions, and in today's era, they are not with the PlayStation, and they are on the tennis court doing physical activity, which is very difficult with today's kids nowadays. So if you are able to do that, and if they're enjoying, so there's nothing like it. It makes them fit. And sports is very important. Education is very important, but also sports is very important, because I feel it builds up your personality. Uh, Tennis. I mean, studies. It's definitely important for your career, but if you're playing sports, it builds your personality. It helps you in whatever mm, line of work you're choosing, or it definitely helps. So any kind of sport, I wouldn't say tennis, but any kind of sport is very important for a kid. So I think it's very important for the kids to join or play any form of game, but tennis definitely. One more like before when we were playing, we were playing tennis. Tennis was accessible. It was very difficult for us to get a court, or get into clubs and play. My father and my sister was into sports, and that's why it was easier for me. But otherwise, it was very difficult to for tennis to play tennis, because there were very few clubs where, and to play tennis you have to be a member of a club and all. It is very difficult. But nowadays it is very accessible. I mean, there's so many people are playing tennis, and they're able to play tennis because there's so many tennis centers around, which has come up. And tennis has become a lot more famous. I remember when I was playing in my junior times, people wouldn't know what tennis is all about. I have to really explain what tennis is all about. They will always confuse it with baddie and stuff like that. But nowadays, we have amazing tennis personalities, like Roger Federer, Nadal, and before that was Sampras, Agassi, and you know before that was Becker. So with their time, tennis has become a lot more popular, and it has become a lot more as it has become a lot more popular. Uh, People know about the game, and people like to play, and they're enjoying the game. So it's great. I mean, it's nice. Uh, so I think it's you, as a parent, you should try to avail tennis as much as possible. Now, as because it is very accessible, so it's I think you should go for it. Uh, well, tennis from before, it has tennis before was very different. It was more about finesse and your hand and your technique. Uh, but now it is more about how physically fit you are. I mean, it is there no difference between a soccer player and a tennis player. You have to be physically so fit. Legs are equally important. I mean, maybe more important, you can say. I mean, you can have the skills and you can be very talented, but if you are not fit, if your legs are not strong enough, then you probably won't survive uh, the long matches. And long matches, I mean, the the matches go on for the weeks. You have weeks and weeks of matches, and then you have to recover. So even recovery part is very important. You might be fit and play the match, play a very strenuous match, and next day, if you don't recover properly, then you are not 100% fit for the next match. So all these things are very important, which was not so much before, but now it is very, very, very. It's very hard. You see the Grand Slam matches with Djokovic and Nadal and Murray and Djokovic and Murray Nadal, and I mean they are playing consecutive 2 days for 11 hours on a hard court. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, a hard court is very difficult. It's very hard on your legs. Coming to hard court, there are different surfaces. There is clay. There is hard court. Hard court is a cemented court, which is with the rubber cushioning. The layers. Different there's some coats, some hard coats are 5 layers. Some the softness is according to the number of layers put on the thing, on the surface. There are hard coats. In today's time there are more of hard coats. I think it's because it's easier to maintain, and a lot of tournaments are happening on the hard court. Mm, uh, so most of the court. Then there are clay used to be a lot more. There used to be a lot of clay courts before, but not it's still there, but uh, there are a lot of places they're turning the hard clay courts into hard court because it's easier to maintain. And as I said, it's more tournaments are happening on the hard court, so they're going with time. And then there is the grass court. Grass court is basically not used so much, and there are very few hard courts now. Grass court, I'm sorry, there are very few grass courts now. And also one of the reasons is very hard to maintain, and they're only used on during they shut off during the monsoon time. So they only used one part of the year. So only the Wimbledon happens in takes place on grass court, and the Queen. There are very few tournaments. But if you go into the ATP tournaments, most of the tournaments are happening on the hard courts. But going on the physical part, hard court is very strenuous on your legs. Clay is a little softer. On French Open, when you play the French Open, the matches last a long time because the ball doesn't finish. The rallies are a lot more. But now this the different surfaces were different before, but now they are trying to bring an equal thing in all the surfaces. So the grass court used to be a lot faster, and clay court used to be lot slower, and hard court used to be medium fast. But now what they're doing is they've kind of slowed down the grass. The clay courts have become a lot faster, and the hard courts are pretty much equal to the both. So that's why you see a lot of players are winning the Grand Slam, all the four slams. And before, which was very difficult, like Rod Laver won it, but not so many like the way it is happening right now. So talking about the change in tennis, these are the changes which are happening, and probably these changes are happening because people got bored seeing serve and volley in grass all the time, got very monotonous, so they're trying to uh, uh, make it more interesting, trying to pull more crowd, make it more interesting, make the game more popular. So I think that's pretty much the idea behind it. So that's one of the changes which has happened. I think it's a major change. Sometimes it's going for some players, sometimes it doesn't go for some players. So I don't know. It varies from player to player. Talking about evolution of tennis, when we were playing, there were the balls. We would have just one kind of a ball, the tennis ball, and but now when the kids are learning, they have softer balls. So when a kid is learning, and the kid is between 4 and 7 years of age, there's a they play with a red ball, which is a lot more bigger in diameter, and a lot more slower. So it's easier for them to hit the ball and maneuver the ball, or to handle the ball, suiting their motor skills. Then they graduate to orange ball, and which is a little less in diameter than the red ball, and but lot slower, 50% slower than the original ball, which is called, what we play with, the yellow ball. Again, it's helping this kind of kids, and the age group is little, again, they're a little bigger. They are around say 7 to 9 or 7 to 8. They play the orange ball. And after that they graduate to the green ball, and the green ball is they play with kids who are 9 from 8 to 11, or 9 to 12 years. So they play with the green ball, and then, which is 25% slower than the slower ball, with the yellow ball, from the yellow ball, which is the original ball which you play with. But again, it's helping them to uh, do more rallies, as the ball bounce less, and it comes at a slower pace, and it makes the game a lot more fun for them, which we never had the opportunity of doing it. So tennis has evolved a lot. It's a lot of kids talking about accessibility of the game, the kids, and now before there was always a fear of injury because kids would play with a bigger rackets, but now it's not so. If the kids, if a 4 or 5 year old kid is playing, they can play with a smaller racket, which is 23 inches or maybe less. Even you have smaller rackets on that. So with the ball, even the racket, the sizes of racket is different. You have 23 inches, then you have 25 inches, and then you have 26 and 27. So again, 4 to 5. The kids who are 4 to 7, they're playing with the red balls. They play with a racket uh, which is 23 inches or less. Then you graduate to the orange ball, and they again from 7 to 9 or 10, and they are playing with a racket which is 25, maybe 23 to 25, and then again to the green ball, again a little elder than that, and they play with the 25 to 27 inches. And again a little bit of it varies a little bit according to the height strength of the kid, how some kids are faster, they develop faster, some kids don't, and depending on the physical ability it varies, but that's what the general uh, thing is. And then even the tennis courts, now we have this mini tennis courts, so when they're playing with the red ball and a 23-inch racket, even you have the smaller court, which is called the mini court. So you have the smaller courts, and then which is called the red court, and then uh, again the orange court is a little bigger than that, and the green court is a little bigger than that, and then they graduate to the uh, normal full size court. So that's how things have changed. It has become a lot more easier for kids to pick up the game, and which is quite injury free and a lot safer. Nothing to worry about, which we never had, and that's how tennis has changed a lot. I mean, this is uh, nowadays and also because tennis is also developing a lot even in the world thing, so we are catching up to it. So that's about it. Now I'm going to go through the little fundamental parts of the sport. So I'm going to tell you about a bit about the dimension of the court. uh, you know the tennis is an individual sport, and it is played either in a singles form or a doubles form. So when you're playing with this in a singles form, you use the court, which is 78 feet in length and 27 feet in breadth. Okay, that's the singles court. And when you uh, mm, uh, use the doubles court, it's 78 feet and 36 feet, because the doubles alleys are included in. So that's basically the uh, dimension of the court. You have the net in between, where the net is dividing the court in equal halves, and the height of the net is 3 feet in between, and it's 3 feet 6 inches at the post. So that's the dimension of the court. Uh, Now I'm going to go to the fundamentals of the stroke. So tennis, basically, if you are dividing the if you're dividing tennis into fundamental strokes, there are five uh, five strokes. It's the serve, it's the ground stroke, forehand ground stroke, the backhand ground stroke. You have the volleys, and you have the overhead. So basically, when you are playing from the baseline, uh, uh, from of the court. It's called the ground strokes. And there are two bases on the court. One is either you play from the baseline, that's one base, or you go up to the net and play from there. That's another base. And basically, you're playing from all parts of the court, but your idea is whichever base is closer, you want to come back to that base. That's how the strategy should be. And the volleys are when you are playing the shot from the net. So basically, the difference between ground stroke and volley is when you're playing ground stroke, you're generally playing the ball with a bounce, and when you're playing volleys, you're playing the ball without a bounce. So that's called a volley. Uh, uh, I'm going to break the uh, ground stroke forehand into three parts, basically, which is easier for you to understand. So basically, I have a racket out here. So if the ground stroke forehand, you can divide it into three, basic part, which is the backswing. So you're taking the racket back, that's a backswing, the contact point in front, and then you finish the stroke with a follow through. So these are the three basic things which you focus on when you're hitting a shot. Now, uh, 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 when you are when you're taking the racket back, just focus on the loop. Generally, when you're taking loop is when you are taking the racket a little from up this way, like you're taking it. It's like drawing a C with the racket. Instead of dropping the wrist, you're taking a little more from here. So this is if you see Federer or Djokovic, um, if you see their forehand, they're always going up this way. So they have a loop, and basically this is done to not to get too risky, to avoid the wrist action. If you drop the wrist, it gets too risky. And on a ground stroke, you initially, when you're learning, you don't want to be risky. Later on a higher stage, maybe you want to uh, try more spin, or the intensity of the spin, that's a different thing. Then you can do, but initially when you're learning, or when you don't want to be risky, and that's the reason you try to go with the loop. So the loop is very important. And then when you are hitting the ball from the ground stroke, make sure that your racket head is going below the ball. So you need to drop the racket head below the ball. The reason you need to drop the racket head below the ball is because you need an elevation. Because as I've mentioned, the net is 3 feet in the center and 3.5 feet on the side. So you need to clear the net. So to clear the net, you need to have the elevation. You get the elevation by dropping the racket head. So you drop the racket head below the ball, and then you try connecting the ball a little in front of your body. So in front of the body, in the sense that if you are throwing a ball, and the point of release should be your point of contact, because you have to imagine, while you're hitting, when you're playing tennis, racket is the extension of your arm. So that should be the contact point, not too much in front and not too much behind, a bit in front of you, as I said, on the release point. And then you carry the ball, you finish the follow through towards the direction of the shot you're hitting. So that's the forehand ground stroke. That is these are the basics. This is, if you are learning tennis, this is something you want to do. You don't want to take a loop and come down on the ball. Don't do it. You need to drop the racket head below the ball. Another thing, when you're dropping the racket head below the ball, make sure you don't need to drop the racket head too much below the ball. You just need to drop it a little below the ball, so that you get a uh, uh, so that you get a slag of the wrist. And then from here, and also the racket head drop gives you a automatic spin, not too much, but enough of spin. It's not a flat stroke. uh, Another thing I want to tell you now, today's era, it is all about topspin. So when people are playing uh, 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 ground strokes from the baseline, they're using either Eastern grip. Eastern grip is more. I mean, if you come down on the racket, you hold a continental grip. It's also called a hammer grip. Now, if you go one slide onto the right, if you're a righty, that's the Eastern grip. If you go further, little one more slide on further right, that's a semi-Western grip. If you go further, it is the Western grip. So generally, the Spanish people play a lot with the Western Greek and the semi-Western Greek, but people who stay in between flat and mid topspin, so they use more of Eastern grip. So you vary a bit from Eastern to semi-Western, and that's the grip. So that's about the forehand. That's about the spin. So that's the top spin. Now, the more you get advanced, the more you want to generate spin. The more you want to generate spin, you can go further extreme on the grips and dropping the racket in. So that's up to you how you want to play and how you want to develop. Before it used to be more flat. The game used to be very flat. That time all the ground strokes and everything used to be more with the continental grip. They would play with the continental forehand. They would play with the continental backhand. But now everything is changed. You're always starting with a. I mean, you're playing. Basically, you get to Eastern grip with more topspin. You play with more topspin. So that's the forehand thing. Now I'll go on the backhand thing. Now, when you go on to backhand, uh, the backhand could be when you're playing ground stroke. Backhand could be more single-handed, or it could be more, or it could be double-handed. So when you hitting first, I'll explain the single hand. It's again pretty much the same thing as you're hitting a forehand. You you hold a continental grip and then you go onto the other side. If you're righty, you go to the left. One slide to the left, that's the Eastern backhand grip. Okay. And if you're a single-handed, try holding the neck of the racket. If you're a single-handed, it's always better to hold the neck of the racket. This is the neck of the racket. This is the head of the racket, and that's the grip. So if you're holding the neck of the racket and pulling the racket back, it's gonna give you an automatic turn. So you are turning your shoulder, you're pulling the racket back, you are turning your shoulder. Then you step in with the right foot. You're stepping in with your right foot, which is called the closed stance. So you stepping with your right foot. You try connecting the ball in front of your body, as I said, and then again you finish up on the direction you want to hit the ball. So that's pretty much on the single-handed backhand. Again, same thing on the single-handed backhand. Single-handed backhand, few points you should I will just emphasize on is try taking the ball more at your waist level, because that's the hitting zone, waist level. And as because generally forehand is stronger than backhand. Forehand, even the ball is a little high on the shoulder height, you can manage, you can get away with it. But when uh, it's a backhand, it's very difficult to hit a ball which is at your shoulder height. So that's very difficult. Either you have to slice it, and as you said, if it's a backspin. So when you are slicing the ball, you are getting into a defensive mode. Once you get in today's era, if you're getting into a defensive mode, your opponent is going to attack you and take full advantage of it. So you have to try not to get into it. So either you go back or go forward and place your do and you do uh, uh, put your right foot forward. You adjust your footwork accordingly, and you try to catch the ball more at your waist height. So basically, you are moving forward and backward, or you doing all the adjustments. So you have to try to bring the ball into the hitting zone. Hitting zone is, as I mentioned, it is more into between the shoulder height and the waist height, and try to connect the ball accordingly. Also depends on the speed of the ball. A lot of times it is not uh, possible, but as much as it's possible, you should do it. That will make you more consistent, which will help you in the game. uh, the reason why I was the double-handed backhand. We generally, when people are learning, they're mostly advised to learn double-handed. The reason, one of the major reasons, is because the high backhand. It's very difficult to handle it if you're a single-handed, until unless you're very natural. I mean, if you're single-handed and there's a common things, somebody will they will attack you on a high backhand. So that's why uh, when somebody's learning tennis, they are always advised to learn double-handed backhand, because in a high backhand it's easier to control with two-handed backhand. Now also with the top spin and with the intensity of spin is so high, it's easier to maneuver the ball and to tackle that spin with two-handed backhand. But if somebody is naturally single-handed, then I think it's easier. Just let them be. But if someone can adapt to double-handed backhand, it's nothing like it, given today's era and the kind of tennis that is played. So again, I'll go with the when double-handed, when you're playing double-handed backhand, it's more of you, you need to have again the same grip on the right hand, with the right hand, and the left hand is more on top of it. This is The left hand is more on top of it, and again it's pretty much the same thing. You're pulling the racket back with the kind of a loop, then dropping the racket head below the ball, connecting it in front, and then finish up all the way through. Again, you are stepping in with the closed stance. Now, coming into the stance, you can, with double-handed, it's easier to. A lot of times, it's easier to go with open stance, but as it's advised, you should try to hit with closed stance as much as possible. It's easier to transfer your body weight uh, on the backhand side when you're closed stance, when you're stepping in. On the forehand side, you always go with the open stance or semi-open stance. Semi-open stance is more. Uh, it is more going. You go more with the right foot open. You go, instead of stepping in with the left foot, you go more with the right foot onto the side. That's called the uh, 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 open stance. That's called the open stance, or in between, which is called the semi-open stance. One of the major reasons of doing so is because tennis has become so fast that you are buying time. You need more time to play the shot. So when you're playing the shot with a closed stance, you need one step to get back. Here, you're not needing one step to get back. You're already there. You hit, you transfer your body weight into the shot, and immediately you get back. Uh, so that's the, again, getting back. That's the modern tennis open stance. As much A lot of open stance have started happening, even on the backhand. If possible, people go with open stance, because that's pretty mostly with the double-handed ones, because it buys them time, and when you have more time, you tend to hit the ball much better. Uh, that's the open stance, and then um, and that's what you need to do on the, coming back to the double-handed backhand. Now, one very important thing on a double-handed backhand is the left hand is more dominant. When you're playing a double hand, generally people often think that you're hitting the backhand with a right hand. Uh, it's basically you're hitting the backhand with the left hand, and the right hand is the support. So the ratio is almost 70 to 30. 70 left hand, and 30% right hand. So that's how the left hand is dominating. So basically, when you are hitting if you're righty, if you're hitting a backhand, it's pretty much forehand with the left hand. You can do that. So even when you're practicing, and if you want to improve your the double-handed backhand, you can just play the shot with your left hand, and then again put the right hand as a support and go away with it. So that's uh, that's uh, that's the ground strokes. We covered the forehand and we covered the backhand. Now is we are going we are going to I'm going to demonstrate a bit or talk about the volleys. So volleys, it is just the reverse or opposite of the ground strokes. You have a continental grip, the hammer grip, and it is constant. You basically try not to change the grip, and this is the continental grip which I showed you before. You hold the racket, and if you come down straight down, it's a continental grip. So that's a continental grip, and this wrist is very important when you're doing a volley. The angle of wrist, the firm wrist is very important. If you're doing a volley and if you drop the wrist, you won't get the punch. You lose the control of the ball. So when you are doing a volley, make sure that your that the wrist is firm, and you see this L, this the racket and the hand and the racket, it's making a L shape. You try to keep it as much as possible. So, and when you're volleying, you try to volley it more from the side. And like as I was telling you about the ground stroke, you got to get under the ball. Here, you got to get more on top of the ball. So the racket always stays up. Make sure when you're doing a volley, if you see all the top guys or the doubles guys, they're doing volley. They never have their racket down. So if the ball, if you're on the net, the court is become already has become smaller for you because you're already halfway inside, and the ball is coming to you a lot faster. So you don't have the time to lift the racket up and then again go for the. So if you already have the racket up here, it's just a block. So the volley is just about it's more of a block with a firm wrist. So all you have to do, it's a very compact stroke. Don't have to do much. All you have to do is just block the ball. Think of yourself as a wall and you are blocking the ball in front of you. That's all. That's all it needs. The timing and a firm block. That's all it needed. And make sure the racket head stays more on top of the ball. So if this is the ball, and you need to keep the racket head more on top of it. If it stays parallel to the height of the ball, then again you won't have the punch. You need to get a punching action on the volley. So to get a punching action of the volley, you need to keep the racket head more on top of it and come from outside the ball. Come from outside the ball, and once you connect the ball, you just stop. That's it. You block it. So it's more of a block. It's a very compact. On the backhand side, same thing. On the backhand side, generally, I mean, until unless you are very weak, I mean, double hands really not advised because the ball is coming so fast. You have to react more of reaction. So double handed is not advisable until unless it's you have a very weak wrist or you have a problem in the hand. That's a different thing. But again, the same grip, the continental grip on the backhand. Hold the neck of the racket more on top of it. Okay. Now, when you're doing a backhand volley, make sure you're pulling the racket back a bit with your left hand. You need a bit of a shoulder uh, on the volley, on the backhand volley. As it's a little on the weaker side, you need a bit of a shoulder strength. So you turn a bit, same thing, the racket edge stays more on top of the ball, go more outside the ball, and then block it in front. Once you block it in front, uh, just stop. It's again a very compact stroke. You just block it in front and stop. That's it. If you can time it perfectly and you have your wrist firm, that's all you need to do. So that's the volleys. Mm, Now we go to overheads. So overhead is also called smash. So now same thing in overhead. So basically you have the change of grips on the ground strokes, and you have a constant grip on the serve, volley, overhead, also called smash. So for overhead, you need to have a continental grip. Again, the the firm grip. The most important thing. when you are hitting an overhead is staying sideways. So as soon as you see the overhead coming, your both arms go up together, goes up this way, all right, and you have your left shoulder towards the net. So basically, when you see the overhead coming, is you should never hit the overhead with a square body. You cannot be hitting it like that. No, you cannot transfer your body weight. So you need the turn to get the uh, weight into the shot. So the first thing you need to do is get sideways, and then lift both arms together, and then the arm you're already into a ready position. This is the ready position. And the left arm acts as a rudder. You're pointing the ball, you're pointing your hand towards the ball. So as because it's high, you don't want the ball to put behind you. The moment the ball gets behind you, you lose control of the ball. So you have to really have the ball, you have to be really under the ball so that you can go on top of it. So once you see the ball and it's on the hitting zone, you try to reach up right on top of the ball and then snap it down. So that's the overhead. But the key on the overhead is turning sideways. And if it's a deep overhead, you use your left hand to track the ball. And if the ball is getting behind you, you you take few steps backwards, and then you jump up with the right foot and snap it down. So that's the overhead. Now we're coming to serve. Uh, so serve, it's the most important stroke in tennis because you are starting the game with it. If you are uh, uh, if you don't get the serve right, you cannot start the point. And generally, you have two serves. If you're playing a match, you have the first serve and you have the second serve. So basically, first serve is more of a practice serve, and the second serve, if you miss the first serve, second serve is more on the topspin side, and or you slice the serve. Slice is also used as a you as a uh, you vary your serve. So a lot of times slice is used to you deceive your opponent. But let's go with the serve on the first serve. So basically, when you're standing, the stance is very important. So you have to have the left foot at a 45-degree angle to the baseline, and the back foot parallel to the baseline. That's how the stance should be, and you have to have your left shoulder towards a bit towards the right post. So you are little turned. Now the that's the stance. Now you have to serve is very nervy. So if you're playing a match, you have to relax and breathe out and then serve, because you are starting the point. Uh, One of the most important thing in serve is the toss. The if you get the toss right, the 80%, 90% chance your serve will be fine. Your serve will be good. Uh, you have to have a stable toss. It's not a throw; it's a release of the left hand. A lot of people throw the ball very high. It's the momentum. So basically, when you are serving, you have to have a rhythmic motion. Whatever motion it shouldn't be very unorthodox, but as simple as possible. You have the rhythmic motion, and then you have both the arms together, and then both the arms go together. They go up, they go down together, then they go up together. So once they go up together, you're tossing the ball with the left arm, and the right arm gets behind you. So you basically, the right arm is more like you're scratching your back. It's like that. So it's like you're throwing the ball. It's more on the throw mechanism. It's like you're loading yourself. So once you do that, then you one very important thing while you're serving is you're going to look up. generally what happens when you're serving or you're hitting an overhead, before you hit the ball, you tend to drop the head down, or you don't, you take your eyes off the ball. So you got to keep your chin up, or you got to keep your eyes on the ball, keep your head up, and then you try to reach up to the ball. And left arm comes down and the right arm goes up. You try to reach up to the ball, go on top of the ball, right on the middle top of the ball, and pronate and come all the way down. So that's pretty much your that is pretty much on your first serve. So when you're on the first serve, the the toss should be a bit to your right. So if there's a clock in front of you, uh, so this is 12, and this is 1, and this is 11. So it should be between 11, 12, and 12:30. That should be the toss for your first serve. Now, coming on to the second serve, if you want to put more top spin onto the serve, it's the same thing. You go up, both arms go up together, and the toss is more on top of your head. So it's probably a bit at 11:45 or so, a bit on top. On the first serve, it's a bit to your right, and on the second serve, if you're doing top spin, it is more on top of your head or a bit to your left, a very slight to your left. And when you are hitting the ball, if this is the ball, and again, if we see the ball at the clock, at 12, uh, 11, and 10, uh, 9, 8, 7, and 1 out here. So you're gonna hit the ball from 7 to 1. So you're brushing the ball more this way, from the left to the right. So that's the top spin serve. On a flat serve, you're going more, pretty much more on top of the ball, and then you're pronating and then coming down. But on the topspin serve, you're going on the left of the ball, bottom of the ball, and the racket head down, and then from here you're brushing it from 7 to 1. So it's going more this way. That's the and then it once you brush it, that's the RPM it will give to the, and then it's gonna kick up. So that's the second serve. And in the second serve, a lot of times you do a slice. You can do add slice serve also to it. On the slice serve. When you're doing a slice serve, the toss is a bit more to the right. So I would say 12:30. So and you hit more onto the side of the ball, so you get a good good curl on the ball. The ball curls out. Same thing, the same way, the way you're hitting the left arm up and the right arm, but you just where you're hitting the ball, the kind of serve you're hitting, it depends where you're hitting the ball. So if you're hitting the side, you're going more on right hand side, on the top right hand side of the ball, and curling the ball in. So you go more onto the right of it, and you're going topspin, you go more onto the left bottom of the ball. You're going more on the flat, you go more on top of it. So basically, this is uh, more about the three serves. Uh, Toss, when you're doing a toss, make sure the left hand is a very, it's a generally a lot of people, they throw the ball, and the ball is either going too high or it's going haywire. The key points on the toss, um, is you should try to keep the left arm straight, okay, and then you need to try to release the ball uh, at the latest point. So you should not let the ball go from below, so it goes haywire. No, you let it go. It's a release. So you are releasing the ball at the very end, and the ball is taking the momentum of your left arm. So it's not a throw. You are letting the ball go, and the ball is taking the momentum of the left arm, and that's what is giving the ball a good uniformity. And when you get that uniformity, you get a stability on the serve. So these on the toss, this is a very key point. I mean, if you try it, it should help you. So I've gone through these are the basic, the fundamentals of the strokes, and there are other strokes like the return of serve. Return of serve is also very key. Djokovic has one of the best return of serve. I mean, it just serve is very important, and so is the return of serve. The same thing. If you don't return the serve, you don't get into the point. And if you miss the return of serve, you never get into the game. So return of serve is very important. But when you're doing the return of serve, you need to split step. Split step is very important. Um, you split step. You have your eyes on the opponent's racket head, and you see which way it's going, and then you time your split step, and then you move according to the direction the opponent hits. So that gives you an extra time, and then you try never, when you're receiving a serve, you try never moving backwards or you know taking the ball or taking a big swing, or you're trying to stroke. The difference between a return of serve and normal ground stroke is that you try not to wind up, you try not to load, you try to keep it very simple, because the if it's a slow serve, you have the time, then it's okay. But if you are playing advanced tennis, then the opponent has a good serve, so you will have less time. First of all, you have to react, you have to guess, and then you have to move. So you'll have less time. So there's no time of winding up. There's no time of taking the racket back. So you block the ball and then you direct it. So there is a kind of a follow through, so that you're directing the ball, uh, but with no backswing. There's no. It's more of a block. It's like the volley. You're blocking in front and then you're directing it, and you're pretty much directing it your body weight forward. So when you're receiving the serve, you always see the top player. They're always trying to split and then move forward one step so that the body weight goes forward. So it's automatic when they're hitting the ball, or it's more of a block. And when you try to cut off the return of serve more going diagonally forward instead of going diagonally backwards. If you're going diagonally backwards, it throws you off. It cuts off. I mean, it doesn't. You can't align your body weight to the shot, so it's going to throw you back. So it's always easier for a block. You always move diagonally forward. If you can connect the ball at the right place, it's the chances you of the ball going back are a lot more. This is again a key for a return of serve. Then as we're talking about the overheads, we have the lobs where if opponent is coming up, uh, you charging up to the net, and you can hit a passing shot, or you can hit the ball on top of the head. So that's called a lob. So sometimes a lot of important matches uh, have turned around because of the lob. I remember Becker and Edberg was playing in Wimbledon, and Edberg I think he was down, he was trailing, and uh, in, he Becker charged in, and Edberg gave him one fantastic lob, and it went for a topspin lob, and it went for a winner, and that turned the match around. And even a lot of times in doubles matches, people give a lot of lobs, and they they and the opponents can't do much. So it's also one of the important shots if you use it properly. So that's pretty much it. I mean, if you're going on the fundamentals, these are the strokes. I mean, you got to know about
Sir, we
which
have
I'm
couple
talking
of
about.
questions which
And
yeah.
uh, then you have the footwork. When you talking a bit about the footwork, the split step is very important. Footwork is very in today's tennis. I've told you that uh, uh, it's uh, it's a lot about legs, and your footwork makes a big impact to your game. I mean, if you have good footwork, I mean, you can hit the ball so much better. Uh, you can get to the ball a lot faster. So one of the important things when people are learning is the split step, which is it is again more like the muscle memory. You have to learn it. to have it into your muscle. It's just like any other skills, and it should be really focused on. Even the people, if people who are playing club tennis or any kind, if they can do a bit of a split step, it's great. They can have more time, and if you have more time, you have more time to make the shot, so you're early for the shot. That'll help you to make a great shot. So it's, I think split step is very important, and if you don't learn it, or if you don't practice it, it's very hard to implement it in a match. If you think that I will do it in a match, and if you don't practice it, you can never do it. You have to practice it. You have to mentally focus on it while you are practicing about and the timing of split step is very important. It has to You have to time it with the opponent's with the opponent's shot. Second is I'm going to the basic footwork actually. Second is when a lot of people are when you are going towards the ball, you got to run towards the ball. You don't shuffle towards the ball. Shuffling is going sideways, and when you go recovering to the base, then you try to shuffle back. You have time. So a lot of times it's the other way around, and people are not focusing on it. So you split, and then as you see the ball coming, uh, you run to the ball if it's 2 or 3 steps away from you, and then you shuffle back to the base immediately. Uh, uh, these things are very important. Um, uh, these are the key footworks, and a lot of times when you are if you're a good player, or you're comfortable with your strokes, a lot of times what happens is the ball is coming right into your body, and then you are playing from the same spot where you played your previous shot from. So what happens, you are not adjusting that step. So in tennis, that baby steps or the mini steps are very important. For each and every stroke you need to make little adjustments, and that what helps you to make a good shot. So if you are, a lot of time the players are compensating it with their arm or moving their body, but they're not moving their legs. That smaller steps, it makes a big difference. If you're doing it every time with your legs, you'll play a lot better shot than while you're adjusting with your, or compensating with your body, or with your hand a lot of times. So it's just either you are too confident of it, or you're too confident of it, or you are mm, you are lazy about it. So I think if you have to focus on, that's the footwork you need to focus on. And these are key footwork thing, I feel. There are lots to it, but within this time I think this is what it is. And strategies, now talking about the basic strategy. If you are playing singles, mm, you just try to get it. If you are just learning, or you're getting into the sport, don't try too much. Just try to get it over the net, across the net, within the sidelines, inside the baseline. That should be your strategy, the basic strategy. One extra ball, you need to hit one extra ball, then you're open. As you're learning, as you're in the beginner stage, once you start getting better and better, then you start directing the ball. You need to hit the ball a little away from the opponent, and you start opening up the gaps. A little further up, then you start knowing the weakness of your opponent, and you start exploiting them. That's another level. And before you do that, you have to know your strength and your weaknesses to be exploiting your opponent's weakness. And you know that's pretty much it. So you have to keep your strategies simple in the beginning, and slowly as you get better and better, the strategies keep changing. And there's in today's tennis, you study your opponent, you do a lot of things. I mean, there's no end to it. But generally, if you're starting, that's what you should be doing. And if you're playing doubles, then um, keep it simple. if you're playing doubles, when you're returning the serve, keep it away from the volley. That should be the basic strategy. Keep it away from the volley, so that the volley doesn't come in. In doubles, if the volley is poaching into your shot, then that's it. I mean, he's right on top of the net. He's gonna finish it. So keep it away from the volley. Look for the gap and then go for it. If you're up on the net, and if you get a volley or something, then you try to go to the volleyer. You try to attack the volleyer because the volleyer has less time. So if you right on top of the net when you're playing doubles, and the opponent is in a format of a one back one up. So if you get a volley or a loose ball, and if you go back to the baseliner, and then he has enough time to make the shot. So these are it doesn't make this it neutralizes your offensive situation. So you have to go short to short and deep to deep. So if you're on the baseline, you got to keep it away from the volleyer. If you're up on the net and guys are on the one guy is on the net, you attack the volleyer, keeping it away. So these are the basic single strategies and the double strategy. I'm just covering the very simple ones. It's too deep, and uh, you know so much to it. It's like an ocean. So with so much time, I think I've covered pretty much all of it. Ramit, are you there? Ramit,
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
hello.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
I Wait, hold on. I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now, sir?
Hello,
Yeah,
can
I
you hear
can
me,
hear you,
Ramit?
sir. Yeah, I can hear you, sir. But can
Okay,
you
is there
hear
any
me?
questions?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions which I will be reading out. One of them is if someone is 35 years old and maybe
Hmm.
older than that, someone who is very slower, but what is the best way to integrate the game into their current physical state? So, this is the first question.
Okay, if somebody is 35 years old,
Yeah, if somebody, yeah,
if that
and very
person can,
yeah, and very
what's that?
slow,
Hmm.
and slower since their teens.
Hmm.
So, what would be your advice to integrate their game into the current physical state?
Okay. If you think you're slow, just just play regular. I mean, regularity is very important. If you are playing tennis regularly, uh, if you're playing tennis regularly, I think you tend to get better. So I think regularity is very important, and quickness. A lot depends on your anticipation, and anticipation also improves a lot with the more of tennis you play. But tennis is such a sport. When you're playing tennis, like you said, you're a little slow, but just try and reach each and every ball possible. Don't let the ball drop twice, or don't. A lot of times people are playing and they are not just playing from one spot, and they're not running for chasing the balls. Tennis is something where you have to basically, in a very simple form, you have to run to the ball and hit it on the other side of the net. So the best way to improve your fitness, even if you're not going to the gym or you're not doing any other physical fitness, when you are playing whatever 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, uh, just try increase the intensity of of your practice. Try reaching each and every ball, even if it's little out. Try and get the balls, and then if you're getting tired, then you rest, and then again get back to the court, and then try it again. I think that way you I mean a lot of times you are bored because and you don't want to do the exercises or do not go to the gym. But if you're enjoying tennis, then this is the best way to improve, and and get fitter. Pramit?
Yeah, yeah. So how do we counter high kick serve on backhand?
Ah, a very good question. How to counter? Well, it depends. Uh, Whether you are playing doubles or singles. If you are playing singles, then you know uh, mm, the, op- the volley is not there, so you can afford to go back and let the ball come down, because when the guy hits a good topspin serve, uh, there's a lot of kick. So you need to stay back a bit and let the ball come to your hitting zone. Let the ball drop down, then you hit it. So that's one way of countering in the singles. Or if he has if it's kicking too high and it's a very um, it's a very effective serve, then you can always slice it. You come in and don't let the ball go up that high. You counter it with a slice at your shoulder height, and block it hard, and then get back to the base. I think that's two ways of doing it. Or even if you're playing from the ad court, you can just run around. Or if you sometimes you can run around your backhand and hit a forehand. That's one way of doing it. And if your backhand is good, you need to go back a bit and let the ball come down. And if you want to hit a top spin, that's how you do it. Or you come up and hit a slice. You block it with a slice. That's one way of doing it. That's about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pramit.
Yeah, we don't have any questions as of now. So we can end today's session if you don't have anything to discuss further. So we can
No,
end.
I'm good. I've covered
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah.
I've whatever I had to. And if people have questions and all, they can always throw the questions. But if they don't
Yeah.
have questions, I have already covered pretty much all of it. I mean, the basic ones, the fundamentals of tennis. And I I hope they all enjoyed, who all are tuned in. And I hope they take away something from it. And uh, I hope to see you again. And I really had fun. It was, and thanks to Inderjeet and Pro Touch for giving me this platform where I could connect with you all. And in future also I look forward where I could help the people with some tennis queries or questions. uh, I'll feel great if I can help somebody with their problems. And if there's somebody has problems and issues, and if they can throw away the question, I can always answer them in the futures. So that's about it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.